Shrewsbury, England, a peaceful town with cobbled lanes, Georgian buildings, and afternoon teas. But on August 21, 2023, it became the setting for one of the most savage gang murders in recent UK history. The killers? A group of young British-Punjabi men from the West Midlands. Their motive? Revenge. Their weapon of choice? An axe. This is the true story of the men who turned brotherhood into bloodshed. They grew up in the heart of England's West Midlands, places like Tipton, Smethwick, and Dudley, home to large British Indian communities with deep cultural roots. Some were cousins, others longtime friends, and many were bonded through their shared Punjabi heritage and a mutual passion for kabaddi, a sport that brought families and communities together every summer. It was during these community events that their bond was forged, strengthened by tradition, loyalty, and shared identity. They were far from stereotypical gang members. Most of them held down jobs. One worked for a parcel delivery company, another at a local mechanic's garage. Some still lived at home. To neighbors and co-workers, they were polite, respectful young men. But beneath that quiet exterior lay an undercurrent of tribal loyalty, one that could quickly transform into something darker when tested. In August 2023, that test came. At a kabaddi tournament in Derbyshire, tensions flared. An altercation broke out. One of their close friends was humiliated and assaulted. What should have ended as a scuffle at a sporting event became a declaration of war. The emotional wound cut deep. This was not just a personal insult, but an affront to their collective pride. They didn't wait weeks. They didn't go to the police. Within 24 hours, they moved with chilling efficiency. Phones buzzed, meetings were held, roles were assigned, surveillance was set up, they sourced weapons, gathered intelligence, and plotted a calculated retaliation. What began as a brotherhood rooted in culture and sport was now mobilized for murder. A grudge turned into a targeted execution, and in doing so, they crossed a line that would change their lives and end another forever. They didn't operate under a gang name, wear matching colors, or boast of territory. There was no mafia-style hierarchy or underworld affiliations. But what they lacked in formal structure, they made up for with ruthless coordination and a bond rooted in blood loyalty. Aurman Singh, 24, a soft-spoken figure on the outside, but a central architect behind the attack. Friends described him as composed under pressure, often quiet in a crowd, but decisive when it mattered. He played a major role in logistics and execution. For his actions, he received life imprisonment with a minimum term of 28 years. Jagdeep Singh, 23, the group's most brazen member. Just minutes after the attack, he filmed himself holding the blood-soaked axe and boasting about the killing. That video would later become key evidence in the trial. His impulsive need for recognition turned a hidden crime into a nationwide scandal. Shivdeep Singh, 27, the oldest among them. He was considered the elder figure, the planner who could keep others in line. Investigators believe he was instrumental in coordinating the retaliation and selecting the exact time and location of the ambush. Manjot Singh, 24, described as observant and fiercely loyal. He didn't speak much, but his physical involvement in the attack was undeniable. Witnesses placed him at the scene, swinging one of the weapons with intent to kill. Sahajpal Singh, 26, and Mahakdeep Singh, 24. After the murder, both fled the UK in an apparent attempt to evade justice. They disappeared for several months before being tracked down in the Austrian village of Hohenzollern. Their extradition required collaboration between UK and EU authorities. Their attempt to vanish only reinforced the image of the gang as calculated and internationally mobile. Sukhmandeep Singh, 24. He never lifted a weapon, but without him, the attack might never have happened. As a colleague of the victim at a DPD delivery depot, he had access to real-time scheduling and routes. He used this position to leak critical details to the attackers. His betrayal led to a manslaughter conviction and a 10-year prison sentence. In the eyes of the court, he was the inside man, the enabler. Two suspects, Harpreet Singh and Harwinder Turner Singh, are still unaccounted for. Police believe they fled overseas. Their names appear on Interpol's Red Notice list, and international authorities remain on alert. Together, these men formed a loose but lethal collective. They weren't in it for money. There were no turf wars, no profits to be made. Their unity was built on pride, loyalty, and retribution. And when that bond was tested, it transformed them from ordinary men into orchestrators of one of Britain's most shocking gang-related killings. The gang's origins lay deep within the multicultural neighborhoods of Tipton, Smethwick, and Dudley. These towns in the West Midlands have long been home to thriving British Indian communities, where first- and second-generation immigrants built their lives through hard work and cultural solidarity. Unlike urban epicenters like London or Manchester, these areas weren't known for gang wars or organized crime syndicates. But beneath the surface, tight-knit relationships, familial loyalties, and regional rivalries had the potential to spark something dangerous. Unlike established crime outfits that control housing estates or run protection rackets, this group had no turf to defend. They weren't selling drugs, managing illicit businesses, or extorting local traders. Instead, their influence was defined by connections, family, friendship, and shared identity. These bonds gave them mobility, not control. Their strength wasn't in territory, but in unity and planning. When they needed to act, they didn't hesitate to move beyond their comfort zone. They identified Shrewsbury, a quiet middle-class market town in Shropshire more than 50 miles away, as their hunting ground. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment choice. The area was unfamiliar to the victim, who was working there on his delivery route and far removed from the gang's known home bases. This gave them a strategic advantage: surprise. They traveled in two vehicles, a white Mercedes and a gray Audi, coordinated and timed. It was a deliberate mission. The use of separate cars and the later abandonment of one vehicle showed a level of premeditated planning rarely associated with non-professional criminals. Despite having no established criminal record in drug trade, arms trafficking, or financial crimes, their methodical approach mirrored the behavior of seasoned organized crime networks. They didn't need to own streets to send a message. All they needed was one location, one moment, and a plan executed with ruthless precision. Their territory, it turns out, wasn't geographical, it was psychological. The fear they created didn't just ripple through one neighborhood. It stretched across counties and into the national consciousness. August 21st, 2023. It was around midday when Aurman Singh, a 23-year-old DPD delivery driver, began his routine rounds through the calm residential streets of Shrewsbury. The sun was out, families were home, children played on driveways. No one suspected that this would be the backdrop to a chilling execution. Aurman parked his delivery van on Berwick Avenue, a road lined with semi-detached houses and quiet driveways. Within seconds of stepping out of his vehicle, chaos erupted. 8 masked men burst onto the street from different angles. They were dressed in dark clothing, faces covered with balaclavas, their hands clutching an arsenal of crude but deadly weapons. Witnesses described the attack as sudden, coordinated, and vicious, like a pack of wolves descending on prey. The weapons were not sophisticated, but they were terrifying in their variety. A machete with a curved, rusted blade, a firewood axe, a cricket bat with duct tape wrapped around the handle, a rusted shovel, a full-size hockey stick, a golf club with the head already bent, large kitchen knives with thick black handles. They didn't issue warnings. They didn't shout threats. They just struck, repeatedly. Aurman tried to shield himself, but it was hopeless. The first blow hit his shoulder, the second his leg. The third, a brutal swing from the axe, struck his head. He collapsed, bleeding and barely conscious. The gang continued. Blow after blow landed with surgical cruelty. The attackers showed no hesitation, no signs of remorse. Neighbors watched in horror from behind curtains and garden fences, helpless and frozen. One witness said it looked like a scene from a horror movie, with each attacker taking turns to inflict damage. The axe, later found smeared in blood, had severed part of Aurman's ear. His skull suffered multiple fractures. Paramedics arriving minutes later found him unresponsive. He was declared dead at the scene. What happened next was even more disturbing. As the gang fled, Jagdeep Singh pulled out his phone and began filming. In the video, later recovered by police, he can be seen grinning, holding the bloodied axe like a trophy. His words were chilling, bragging about what they had done. That video would go on to play a crucial role in securing convictions. In the space of just 60 seconds, a peaceful street had been turned into a crime scene. A young man's life was taken in the name of revenge, and Britain was about to discover that this was no ordinary act of violence. It was a statement, a warning, a meticulously planned execution carried out in broad daylight with a level of brutality that left even seasoned investigators stunned. Within hours of the brutal killing, the wheels of justice began turning. The gray Audi used by 4 of the suspects was intercepted on its return to the West Midlands. Alerted by descriptions provided by terrified witnesses and surveillance footage, officers from West Mercia Police cornered the vehicle and arrested the men inside. During the pursuit, officers witnessed the suspects throwing weapons into a public bin in a last-ditch attempt to erase evidence. Forensic teams moved quickly. Inside the bin, police recovered several of the makeshift weapons used in the attack, all bearing traces of blood and fingerprints. These weapons were immediately sent for forensic testing, and results tied each item to the individuals in custody and to the crime scene. Meanwhile, the white Mercedes used by the remaining two attackers was found abandoned. CCTV footage tracked them as they switched to a taxi, then boarded a train back toward the West Midlands. Within days, both had fled the country. Investigators combed through phone records and digital communications. It was here that they found the smoking gun, a series of messages from Sukhmandeep Singh, the insider. He had sent Aurman Singh exact location and route to the attackers just minutes before the ambush. It was clear that without his betrayal, the murder could not have been executed so precisely. The trial began in March 2024 at Stafford Crown Court. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence: the recovered weapons, the CCTV footage, the bloodstained clothing, the phone records, and most damning of all, the video filmed by Jagdeep Singh holding the bloodied axe. That footage left jurors visibly shaken. By April 2024, the verdicts were in. Arshdeep, Jagdeep, Shivdeep, and Manjot Singh were all convicted of murder. Sukhmandeep Singh was found guilty of manslaughter for his role as the insider. The sentences were swift and severe. Each of the 4 convicted murderers received life in prison with minimum terms of 28 years. Sukhmandeep Singh received a 10-year sentence for manslaughter, but justice wasn't finished. The hunt for the 2 fugitives, Sahajpal and Mahakdeep Singh, continued. In May 2024, after months of international collaboration, the fugitives were located in Hohenzollern, Austria. Acting on intelligence provided by UK authorities, Austrian police raided the property where the 2 were hiding. They were arrested without resistance and extradited back to the UK within weeks. Their trial began in March 2025. Despite claims that they had only intended to scare the victim, the evidence spoke louder. They had traveled with the others, brought weapons, and actively participated in the coordinated attack. The jury took little time to convict both of murder. In April 2025, they were sentenced. Sahajpal Singh and Mahakdeep Singh each received life imprisonment with a minimum of 28 years. By the end of the proceedings, 7 men were behind bars. Together, they had been sentenced to more than 178 years in prison. The verdict brought some closure to a devastated family and community. But the scars of that day and the sheer brutality of the crime left a lasting mark on Britain's collective conscience. West Mercia police launched a large-scale investigation. From the outset, it was clear this wasn't random. The coordination, weapons, and brutality pointed to planning. Crime scene investigators recovered 8 weapons, phone data linking all participants, CCTV from local shops and homes, DNA evidence on clothing, weapons, and the van. Digital evidence played a massive role. Texts between the insider and attackers laid out the timeline. One text, sent just 30 minutes before the killing, said, "He's on his way to Berwick." A witness captured partial footage of the ambush. It showed the attackers descending in seconds. Another neighbor described screams, followed by eerie silence. Police used ANPR, automatic number plate recognition, to track the cars. One had been rented days before. Another belonged to one of the men's relatives. Interpol was involved in tracing the 2 fugitives. Surveillance, bank records, and passport flags eventually led to their arrest in Austria. The investigation was described as one of the most complex in the region's recent history. Aurman's death sent shockwaves through both the Sikh community and wider British society. He wasn't in a gang, he wasn't armed, he was working. His family was devastated. His mother, Kuljit Kaur, stood outside court, tears in her eyes. "I saw my son lying on the road in his uniform. How do you live with that image?" In Shrewsbury, candles lit the pavement. Notes and flowers piled outside the crime scene. People who had never met Aurman came to pay respects. The South Asian community felt deep pain. The attack stemmed from a dispute at a cultural event, something meant to bring people together. Aurman's employer, DPD, issued a statement condemning the attack and offering support to the family. The incident sparked discussions about safety protocols for delivery drivers and about the need for youth programs to address inter-community disputes. 2 men are still out there, Harpreet Singh and Harwinder Singh. Police believe they may have fled to the Middle East or mainland Europe. Arrest warrants remain active. Interpol is involved. Meanwhile, police warn that gangs today don't always look the part. No flashy cars, no graffiti, just close-knit networks bound by pride and vengeance. There's also a growing concern that cultural events are becoming grounds for clashes. The Derbyshire Kabaddi fight that triggered this killing has led to tighter security at similar tournaments. In the wake of the tragedy, community leaders are calling for education and outreach. Workshops in gurdwaras now include conflict resolution. Schools with high South Asian populations are incorporating gang awareness programs. Aurman Singh's name may one day grace a foundation or scholarship. His family has expressed interest in turning his memory into a legacy of peace. In memory of Aurman Singh, 2000 to 2023. They came as brothers. They left as killers. This was a gang not driven by profit but pride. They didn't smuggle drugs or weapons. They carried out a vendetta. And in doing so, they destroyed lives, including their own. Britain's most ruthless Indian origin gang may no longer be free, but the scars they left will not fade. Their story is a reminder. Brotherhood can build or it can destroy, and revenge, once set in motion, rarely stops with just one victim.